afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our very esteemed panelists, and truly thank you for being with us here today. We are going to enter into a very deep and very actually important conversation today on new battery technologies, advanced storage solutions, and the impact and the importance that they hold in the India context and internationally as well. Without further ado, we've had a very brief introduction from our host for the day, but I will invite each of our guests just to give a one-line introduction so the audience can get to familiarize with you before we get into the conversation. Dr. Ji-Yong, maybe we can start with you.
Okay, very nice to meet you. My name is Ji-Yong Shin, working at BASF from Technical Sales Department, leading the Asia Pacific team. And it's my maybe third time joining here, but the first time being here in person. And very nice to seeing you, and I really look forward to fruitful discussions. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Very interesting to see a lot of familiar faces here. I was with the Niti Aayog, and we started the narrative on electric vehicles sometime way back in 2017 to take it forward. After the government assignments, I am now currently with the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, as a professor of practice, and also the director in Epsilon Advanced Materials Limited, making anodes for the lithium-ion batteries and a few other companies.
Thank you. Very warm welcome.
Hello, I am Inderveer. I am the founder for EVage. We make electric commercial vehicles in India, and we are into the last and mid-mile delivery space, trying to electrify logistics. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Atul.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Atul Arya, and I work for a company called Panasonic, and we are one of the largest cell manufacturers, and we are trying to build this business in India also to bring some high quality and high performance cells to India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause and welcome for all of our guests here today. Yes, thank you. As you can see, we have very eminent panelists who are industry experts, academic experts, and guests from around the world here to really help us shed light on the future of battery technology. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. Dr. Ji-Yong, I'd like to start with you. So now it's arguable that you're really an expert in lithium-ion technology, both for cathode materials, but we're going to look actually at the whole range of applications and where we really stand today when it comes to lithium-ion technology for batteries and EVs. There is, of course, as we all know, multiple new technologies coming into the foray, which we will be exploring in greater depth. But where does lithium-ion stand today in the production of EVs and the future ahead?
Yes, I think here also we discuss over the sessions also in the morning, like different technologies, and people are already talking about post lithium-ion batteries, such as like sodium ions and even like all solid-state batteries and aluminum-based batteries. But still, I strongly believe that innovations is required even for lithium-ion batteries. I think commercialization of lithium-ion batteries for EV is already happening. But this industry really need more and more innovations for lithium-ion batteries as well. One of the examples is, I think, one of the hot agenda, until like a couple years ago, is achieving high energy density electric vehicles. That means we need to design active components and as well as the lithium-ion batteries in order to achieve high energy density in watt-hour per liter. But I think, it is, to my opinion, relatively easy to achieve high energy density than rather than make high energy density together with the safe and the high cycling stability batteries. So, and also another point here is I think we are getting a lot of pressures from industry. I mean, mainly from also the end customer, but from the car OEMs and also battery manufacturers. I mean, as a also material supplier, getting pressure on making battery active component more cost competitive. So this cost pressure is huge in this market. I mean, not only like Asia Pacific, but also now Europe and also North America. So in order to make this, BASF, we are working as a cathode active material supplier. I mean, we need really innovation to make cathode active materials more safe and also cost competitive. So one of the example is people are looking into, we are working mainly as NMC cathode suppliers, and people are working or looking into really cobalt-free composition starting from NMC cathode materials. And as you probably know, I think without having cobalt in the structure, I think it's very difficult to achieve the high energy density as well as high cycling stability in the EV battery systems. So I think still innovation is needed for lithium-ion battery technologies, especially to make EV more cost competitive and also safe in the future.
Can you also share with us some of the challenges that the industry has faced when it comes to lithium-ion batteries? And what are the solutions that we are currently seeing? As you've mentioned, innovation is at the front with lithium-ion as well. So what are some of the solutions we are seeing the industry offer when it comes to the challenges with lithium-ion?
Yes, I think one of the challenges that I mentioned earlier, like cost pressure from the markets. So I mentioned the innovation is really important here to make this, to come up with really cost competitive active materials components as well as lithium-ion batteries. And also, I think there is more and more pressure from the industry to come up with low CO2 footprints, even for EV markets. So I think that's why we also have been working very hard on recycling industry. So I think those to make more sustainable lithium-ion battery, or in the end, EV is one of the big challenges, but really worth putting a lot of efforts on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anil, I'd like to move on to you now, as we've gotten a nice foundation setting when it comes to lithium-ion, where the industry stands, challenges faced. But arguably, as we were discussing, the competition today is really in the energy behind EVs and the various solutions that we are seeing. So in the battle of battery technology, can you help us just to start to understand the various new technologies that are emerging, and then we'll explore the India angle to the production and the manufacturing as well.
Thank you, Devina. Well, friends, I remember sometime in 2016 or 2017, The Economist had printed on their cover page broken internal combustion engine. I think most of you remember that. And that thing is coming true in the sense that the point of competition, as Devna was saying, is the energy now. So far, the design and the development of the new vehicles and the new automobile was the issue, but now the race is for what is going to be the source of energy, because earlier the source of energy was stationary or only one, that is the gasoline. And now that the things have shifted from there, not much which is going to be there in terms of the engine, but then the competition would be in terms of the source of energy. How do you manage the vehicle, that is the electronics of the vehicle, and the software which you develop, that's the battery management system or the management of the entire vehicle, how do you do it? So that's what is going to be a cutting edge now among the companies, and I believe OEMs do realize it. Now what is happening in terms of the batteries or the source of energy? as it is happening that the transfer to non-gasoline vehicles is taking place before the gasoline rise up from the wells. Similarly, as it is being said that the shift from the lithium-ion would be there before the lithium mines become extinct or the lithium becomes unavailable. So that is what is now the lot of work which is going on in the research institutions or in academic institutions is regarding the following or the finding out the alternatives. As just now it is being said that the high density energy is very much the thing. But now the thing is whether the solid state batteries or maybe some metal based or the aluminum oxide or aluminum water or aluminum oxygen based technologies, and finally the fuel cell based batteries. So this is the trajectory which it is going to take place, and how long is what is the future of lithium-ion batteries is anybody's guess for that matter. But as it is widely said that maybe a little more than a decade would be the optimal time which is being given for and by that time the new technologies do come up along with the lithium or with lithium and other combinations of the electrolytes and the cathodes and anodes. So that is how it is going to take place. India as a country has put forward a very right step in the sense that 35,000 crores have been committed in the budget regarding the transition of energy transition and green energy related activities of the government. New green hydrogen mission which has been set up. So very rightly the focus has been put on that, and that is where probably I would urge upon the industry to take it forward in a way that India is a big market. Automobile sector, we are, in terms of the four-wheel passenger vehicles, the fourth biggest automobile market, but two-wheelers, three-wheelers, we are the largest manufacturers. And the government schemes are directed towards that. So taking into that account, the energy solutions which are going to emerge and the mobility needs is certainly going to be the green mobility which is going to be followed. Energy has to be competitive as well. We cannot ignore the fact that as earlier the vehicle design and the vehicle development was competitive and among the various companies, but now the energy has to be competitive. Energy has to be for whatever it is driving, whether it is the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, or four-wheelers, or even the public transport, even to the railways or other means of transportation. Whatever source of energy, it's going to be competitive, and that is where a lot of work is going on. As I look at it, maybe the transition would be from the from the current NMS and LFP technologies to the solid state technologies, and further it will be moved forward to the fuel cell.
Thank you. Atul, I'd like to get you in on this. As Anil has rightly mentioned, energy needs to be competitive. We've discussed in brief solid state, sodium ion, aluminum air all coming in as potential new technologies. In the technology front, where do we stand when it actually comes to being commercially viable production?
So first of all, let me give you some statistics on where we stand today with respect to battery manufacturing per se. And when we say battery, primarily in the current context, we talk about lithium-ion. And it's not that lithium-ion is the only technology. There have been many other technologies which have been tried, redox and variety of others, but eventually lithium-ion came out winner out of all this and most suitable one. And it's been, lithium-ion, by the way, has been in existence for decades now. It's not something new, but new innovations have happened, as Dr. Ji-Yong said, continuously over the decades. Within lithium-ion also, there are multiple chemistries. We try to club them all together saying lithium-ion, but there is NMC, NCA, LFP, LTO, and variety of other chemistries, depending on the use case, how the use case is. And some of them are cost-effective in terms of upfront cost. Some of them are cost-effective in terms of long-term price, as they call, for the applications. So lithium-ion capacity worldwide in 2015 used to be around 50 or 60 gigawatt overall. total. And today, we expect this to be reaching 2,500 to 3,000 gigawatt by 2030. So you see, in about 15 years period, we are making such a huge jump, right? And this is primarily because we are seeing new applications coming in. Those days, lithium-ion used to be used primarily in your communication devices, laptops, mobile phones, and whatnot. But we started using them in Tesla cars, for example. We started using them in scooters and now in cars, of trucks, etc., etc. Therefore, the scale. So, and the whole world is today struggling to keep up the capacity with respect to demand. Now, on the other side, we are talking about innovations in terms of newer technologies. So we should keep in mind that whenever we come out with a new technology, it will have to serve a very large need. Will we have equivalent capacity? How long will we take? We are taking 15 years to expand this capacity. And will we be able to do it in 2 years? Maybe not. So what essentially is going to happen is, and by the way, we have not written off petrol, diesel, by the way, right? We are still continuing to use them. Majority of it is still on the fossil fuel. It will go away slowly. So all these technologies will have a very slow transformation. Whatever innovation comes in will not happen overnight. They will have a very step-by-step innovations. And another way to look at whether you will have any solid state, sodium ions, or metal air, aluminum air, all those things, typically, most of them will first come through a smaller format. They will come in your smartwatches. They will come in your Apple phones. They will come into laptops. And then the scale, depending on the stability and depending on the capacity they build, the manufacturers will slowly expand. Because manufacturing a new chemistry, a new technology is not just innovating in lab. It's also testing it for stability. Safety is a very important concern. There are a variety of chemistries which are very good theoretically, but they cannot survive because at scale they cannot. They are not profitable for any manufacturer. So you need to also look at raw material, by the way. Today we are struggling with lithium and variety of other metals like cobalt. Tomorrow, if we come out with another chemistry, will we struggle with them or not is another question. Therefore, in my mind, any new chemistry, any new technology is not going to eat away lithium-ion overnight. So if there are people, I know there are a lot of people who think about it, that I should not invest in lithium-ion in my design capacity because tomorrow something new will come and my investment will go waste. Perhaps that will never happen. So we need to continue with the new technology because IOCL, BPCL are not getting out of business. They are still selling petrol and diesel in spite of so much of electric vehicles. So I think this is my perspective on newer chemistries and newer technologies.
Thank you, and I'll also get you in on another comment of Dr. Anil, which is about really the clean mobility policies that we see emerging in India for the last, let's say, 4 to 5 years. There is a lot of government support in India when it comes to pushing this agenda, both of sales but also manufacturing. So how can India look at production at a lower and more sustainable cost?
Okay, interesting. Once again, so government has taken a very bold stand and pushed for clean mobility. Therefore, we saw FAME policy, FAME 1 and FAME 2, and FAME 2 in the current bold avatar is really kicking the sales. I think 2-wheelers are flying off the shelf, even 3-wheelers and variety of other vehicles. So naturally, it's a very good boost to the industry. But obviously, government cannot continue to support this kind of subsidy over a period of time, and eventually it will have to be cost effective. And that's why government is cognizant of the fact that we should be also investing in manufacturing. I have a very, very different take on manufacturing because we have a PLI for cells. But I thought, as I said in the past, there is almost 3,000 gigawatt capacity which is going to be built, and a large capacity is, when we speak, is already being built in Europe and in China and in US, everywhere. For our government to be part of the overall manufacturing supply chain, we should have probably looked at some of the components first, because we have a large copper reserves, we have aluminum, we have chemical industry, we have plastic industry, we have variety of other things. And we could have contributed to this industry by exporting a lot of these things. It is not necessary that we manufacture everything here in-house in India. We cannot do that. Because today, if we decide, and of course, there is a PLI which is announced, people have bid, people will start to build capacities, but eventually what will happen is they are going to import pretty much everything, almost everything. BASF or anybody else is going to supply the cobalts and the variety of active materials. There will be anode. Maybe some of them will start to manufacture for India, but the scale will be small because our ambition is to do only 50 gigawatt. But there is a very large opportunity lying outside. And today we don't live in a world which is really having boundaries of countries. You know, it's a global world. The fact of the matter is that our industry is today growing on the basis of imports. We don't manufacture anything on lithium-ion, but our industry is growing leaps and bounds. So why can't we take advantage of this situation? And because we have a very, very strong chemical industry, we could have become part of electrolyte supply chain, for example. Just a simple suggestion. We could have used our copper reserves to process it and make a copper foil, which can be used in cathode and variety of other things. So I think 50 gigawatt in my mind is a small ambition, first of all, because our demand is going to be much higher, and it's going to be very tiny in comparison to the global capacity in any case, right? So it's not going to be that significant as we should have been. Whereas if we focus on the supply chain, we could be much more significant player in the overall lithium-ion, and then whether we assemble in India or we import cells from outside, we would have still been part of the supply chain.
So India really focusing on contributing to the supply chain end of the spectrum versus having the entire manufacturing spectrum from A to Z happen within the country. Really look at what we have, look at the materials that we have as well.
Yeah, because another important thing is that so far in India, nobody has the IP to manufacture cells. So we don't have indigenous technology. So what we are going to do is we are actually going to buy even the technology. We are going to buy the raw material. What we are going to give is the land and the capital. I am not sure if we will be really efficient with that, because we also invite a lot of FDI, right? So it's essentially the land and the manpower, right? So the labor, which I don't think can make us very competitive versus rest of the world, which already has a very large capacity. So that's my point. So basically, to be efficient, to be more cost effective, eventually to meet the goal of competitive energy, we should look at the ways, very, very different ways to be participating in the supply chain.
Thank you. Inderveer, let's get you in on this. Let's look at the competitiveness that we can offer, that India has to offer through companies like yours. When it comes to advanced battery chemistry, how has it evolved over the years? Where do we stand right now in India, in sort of on a global scale, really, and what we have to offer the industry?
So I represent the buy side of the batteries, so slightly outlier in this whole panel. But my view is, the advanced battery chemistries that are needed will be based on use cases, right? It's going to be fairly fragmented on the base of the kind of uses you get out of the battery. And, there would be a huge scope for improvement within the lithium family of batteries, because in a battery, unlike computers maybe, right, the chip is sort of doubling in its capacity every year. But batteries, unfortunately, don't do that. The density doesn't improve overnight, right? It takes decades to get a 10% improvement even, right? So the initial bit would be, and as rightly mentioned, that there are capacities installed. They also need to make money out of it. There's a lot of capital that has gone into it, into making the whole world green. And essentially, there would be, small improvements in different aspects of the battery. Could be faster charging, could be lower densities, could be longer life, could be more stable chemistries for safety, depending upon the use case. And, so lithium would still be, at least for a decade or 2 decades, maybe the option. But the fragmentation may increase from NMCs to LTOs to LFPs to few newer chemistries coming in, but those fragments would essentially be on a lithium family based thing. Secondly, the advanced batteries that we are talking about, we are still in the basic research stage in most of the cases. A lot of companies would have developed something in a laboratory to manufacture it or industrialize it, and then to prove its performance over a period of time. I mean, in automobiles, we generally have to give warranties between 5 to 10 years, 500,000 miles. If I have to test it on a vehicle, I will take 3 years to actually test it before I can sort of deploy it on the road. So this whole cycle from basic research to industrialization to sort of deployment is again a decade or decade and a half long journey. So if you ask me advanced battery chemistries, there will be different families of lithium that would be sort of coming out where you can have, or you can share the capacities that have been built with different form factors, forms. As far as the demand goes, the world is moving to green energy at an unheard of pace. You know, a decade back, when I started EVage, essentially, people thought it was a foolish decision because, you know, these are vehicles made for people who would want to flash money, and it will not be an everyday used vehicle, right? And this journey over the last decade, what we did at EVage and what we have been building, now it's not a question of whether it will be electric or not, or whether it will be some kind of a new fuel. Now it is when we will convert to electric. All the conversation over here is how faster adoption of EVs will take place. It's not about whether adoption will take place. So this is the journey, right? There's a big shift in the consumer behavior. A lot of people are holding back on their purchase maybe because they would want to invest in a green car. Two-wheelers, we have seen this happen. Of course, there are challenges the industry will have to face, and which has been brought up in this panel already, but cost, safety, and the performance, right? All these things need to improve, and safety especially in extreme conditions like what we have in India. So I guess these are the things which would be the prime moving factors for battery technology in the future.
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on one of your points, very importantly actually, about consumer behavior. And I open this question to all our guests here, all our panelists, about any trends and interesting patterns that you've seen, shifts that you've observed in the industry when it comes to consumer behavior. We can go one by one if there's any insight you can share with us. Doctor, maybe we can start with you.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the question once again?
We're talking about trends and shifts in consumer and customer behavior that we've seen over the years when we're looking at the EV industry as a whole. Just any insight you could share with us and with the audience here today.
Okay. So I think this EV industry is very much also related to electrification of automobile industry. And I think also the consumer, they also, to my understanding, treat this EV as more like, electronics. Yeah. So, at the beginning, like even 5 years ago, we completely separate consumer batteries for consumer electronics and also the EV applications. But I think, now this border is being closed, and I think we need also more fast response to the consumers from also EV applications as well. Yeah.
Thank you. So faster response to consumers. Anil, would you like to share some insight with us?
I would like to look at it in a way that the tipping point for two-wheeler has already reached. Probably we have crossed the two-wheeler tipping point, and three-wheelers as well. The 15% two-wheelers in the market now, and maybe 70,000 EV two-wheelers coming into the market every month is well over the tipping point, as I understand. So I'm coming to the consumer behavior subsequently. And the four-wheeler passenger vehicle, my take would be that it is the lack of a suitable or appropriate model or a car on the Indian market that is probably is the reason for not adoption at a faster pace. Even now, the more than 4.5% adoption of EVs is much more than what the Bloomberg or any think tank, Morgan Stanley or anybody could have thought about. We are certainly moving at a faster speed, and the adoption is faster than what we used to say from the Niti Aayog at that point of time. And the consumer is now realizing the advantage, the total cost of TCO concept, the total cost of ownership, which we used to, rather we like to educate the consumer for that. Now the consumer is getting educated on that. So there is a clear shift over the preferences of the consumer. The consumer behavior is changing. Consumer is realizing that the electric vehicle which he is buying is along with the source of energy. So the TCO concept is very well accepted now. So all that is taking place. Now it's a matter of time in that four-wheeler passenger vehicle segment. As soon as we get more appropriate brands or the more models which are to the liking of the Indian consumer, which is very discriminate in its approach. So certainly it's going to be accepted, and we are certainly going to be moving even faster than what it is. And now then the role of the battery or the source of energy comes into the play, for which my esteemed panelists have spoken quite a bit.
Thank you.
So there are two parallels I can draw. We were discussing somewhere else, but it sort of is apt over here for this question. When it comes to EV adoption, we are at the stage where the smartphone adoption started. It's changing at that pace. There are striking similarities upon how smartphone offtake started in India and how it expanded, of course, with local manufacturing support. And the second one is, being a commercial vehicle manufacturer, we are booked out for the next 2 years. So I guess these are two things I can say.
Thank you. Atul?
I think consumer had to, of course, consumer has displayed some of the traits which consumer should display. For example, lapped up the subsidy, so obviously always price conscious. But consumer had to also put up with a lot of things. For example, he has had to change now from refueling to plugging in his vehicle. It's a big behavior change. I'm not used to plugging in my car, for example. I can go to petrol pump and get the petrol. And the other thing which I see clearly is that 2 years back or 3 years back, nobody paid attention to safety. But today people are actually asking those questions to the OEMs, that is this really safe? And I think that's a big change as well.
No conversation really on this topic can go without talking about the safety angle. And before I get deeper into it, I would actually like to open the floor to the audience at this point. Any questions we have for our panelists? Any further insight that you would like to ask? We can have a mic being passed around. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
So thank you for the insightful thoughts. So I am Lokesh, and I am from Suzuki two-wheelers. I am leading electric vehicle projects from engineering front. So my question is regarding the consumer behavior, which what we discuss right now. So currently in the consumer mindset, there is a lot of ambiguity regarding the battery life. So there is a belief prevailing in the consumer market right now that after 3 years of the battery, either they have to replace the battery with, and also they have to bear the high cost. So my question is that what measures or program do you foresee to provide the consumer a feel, touch and sight experience to all the ambiguities they have towards EV?
Thank you for your question, Lokesh. Is this for any one of our panelists
yes,
in
anyone,
particular?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
I'll take this. So, and another example which I can set forth. Henry Ford started the production line in 1904 to 1908. The Model T got into production. And the next 2 decades, if we talk about it, prior to Henry Ford starting, almost 98.5% to 99% commute was horse carriages. And when sort of automobiles became more affordable, the next 2 decades were the worst decades in humanity. During COVID, everybody would have read through this, right? There was the first Great War. It ended, we had the Spanish flu, similar to the COVID, and then the Great Depression. But 2 things happened. The mode of commute became automobile, more than 98% in North America alone. And there were around 3,200 automobile companies that got incorporated within those 2 decades. Now, this is phenomenal if you look at it from the perspective of the difficulties at a macro level we had. And so when the time has come for the idea, it will form. Now, the micro ideas, it's about how you can provide a safe ecosystem to your consumers. It's not only the chemistry, I strongly believe. I am in support of all the chemistry over here. Chemistries are not going to define the safety of your vehicle. It is the systems that you have for functional safety that will define how well your vehicle performs. So more work has to do, because it's a chemical reaction, it's going to take its place, you can't change it. But you can change the way your vehicle moves. There's a software that you can control it, the hardware that you need to sort of provide the safe operating conditions for the chemical reaction. That will define your safety parameters.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, my name is Manish Agarwal and I represent Ready Assist. My question is to Mr. Inderveer Singh. Inderveer ji, just wanted to understand, there's a lot about, we saw in the morning Mr. Bhavish Agarwal being very, very bullish about the two-wheeler EV space. There are a lot of things happening inside the four-wheeler segment. How you see CV space basically changing from one base to the another base? Because specifically in the CV, if we talk about, we are into two segments, B2B and B2C. B2B I can still understand, or people can still correlate moving towards the EV thing. How the B2C will take it ahead? Because in India, sorry to say, load carrying capacity जितनी भी हो उससे ज़्यादा ही हम लोग ट्रक के ऊपर लाद करके भेजते हैं सामान.
That's the challenge we sort of work with as a company. But essentially, there are two things which will be for it. Almost 36% of the road emissions are contributed by 5% of the commercial vehicles running in your city. So these are the kind of vehicles which are the most important to electrify if electrification for being more greener is important. And secondly, a commercial vehicle would be running for 18 to 20 hours a day. It will cover more load miles than your, I sometimes talk to people and say, going from the office to your home and back, you will drive maximum 20 miles, 40 miles. You're not saving the environment. It's the commercial vehicles, once they convert, they will save the environment. But also being electric vehicles, the more load miles you carry, the faster will be the payback. So from a B2C perspective, I believe there are great tailwinds that we have that will convert over a period of time. And there is immense demand that we have. At least I can vouch for our company. And every day there are inquiries piling in. We are booked out for the next 2 years. I keep on saying that. So, that's the status of commercial vehicle transformation in India.
Okay, we'll take one last question. And in the interest of time, we will slowly conclude this panel.
My name is Harinder. Actually, I'm giving a second life to the batteries, lead-acid batteries, in collaboration with Israel. Now my question is, because you people are not the policy maker and not the other things, but a common question from the common public comes, because this whole journey which started 6-7 years back, altogether the e-vehicles, but the whole chapter is now in a different direction where the government policies, like they have started everything by comparing themselves that we will follow the Norway country policy and like that one. But nothing has been happened like that actually. Why people are not attracted nowadays? They are less attracted because in the last 5 years, substandard batteries came from China and the whole scenario get changed in the market. As a common two-wheeler segment I am talking about. And on the other side, as the policy, this is especially IIT professor is there, so my question to him actually. On the other side, now the policy is concerned, there is no huge attraction to the consumers that, like for example, there should not be any toll tax for any vehicles whole of the country, and those things must be started, and free electricity by the government to the charger to be installed for these vehicles. So what is your review?
You have primarily mentioned about two things. One is the toll-free movement of the electric vehicles, and second is the power tariff should be waived on the charging. Now, if you look at it from the last 4-5 years, there are so many policies which were implemented by the government in the favor of the electric vehicles, and the entire industry even used to tell or used to say that probably the government has moved faster than the industry for the first time in the electric vehicle areas, because we are extremely proactive while we were working on it in the Niti Aayog. Well, there are a whole lot of other benefits which have been given to the adoption of electric vehicles. Some of them are direct fiscal incentives, and some of them are indirect fiscal incentives and supply from the supply side also and from the demand side also. Now try to understand it, the green number plates, the exemption from the road tax, the new scrapping policy which has come out, and then the tariff policy also, we capped the tariff at which the battery charging could be done. Now, your perception or your saying that it should be waived off, I mean, it won't buy the things in the government. Nobody would rather agree to it, because then it becomes a usage problem, misutilization, a whole lot of other things. So then also the government has given incentives for having green charging of the batteries while you are leasing the batteries or you are swapping the batteries in that scenario also. There's about 20-25 different policies came out from the government by the Ministry of Road Transport, Department of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Industrial Promotion, DPIIT, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Power, MNRE, and the clear and the current focus in the budget of the government is also very clear indication as to what the government is thinking. Now, you are absolutely right. We tried to pitch on and tell, expected the Road Transport Ministry to buy the idea that the movement of electric vehicles could be toll-free. And you never know, one fine morning the government may decide on it, because this was under the consideration at one point of time. So these are the incentives, and even the success of the FAME now is also an outcome of that, the way it was planned. If you look at the finer details of the FAME scheme, we focused on the two-wheelers, we focused on the three-wheelers, because we made 2 crores, 20 million two-wheelers and three-wheelers compared to the thing. So then the focus was on the public transport. What the Prime Minister said in his address in our MOVE conference, that it should be clean, connected, common. So all the 7 C's which he said, we tried to take it forward through various schemes and various policies of the Government of India through various ministries and the departments. So there are sufficient incentives for the adoption and the promotion of the electric vehicles. I would also just like to add something to the first question which was there regarding the confusion which is there in the two-wheeler buyer. I mean, I don't think that there is much of a confusion in the sense, yes, we need to educate the buyer, and for that some projects were taken up by the Niti Aayog, IEC, for IEC and all. I would say that Indian buyer is a very circumspect and very, very well educated. They all understand as to what is in their interest, and yes, they need to be educated. They need to be told about the concept of the total cost of ownership of a vehicle, but gradually it is seeping in. And once it is there in the two-wheelers and three-wheeler segment, I don't think that we need to educate the higher or the higher end of the customers, four-wheeler passenger vehicles or even the commercial vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you to the audience. I know you have a lot of questions for our esteemed panelists. We will have to conclude the panel at this point, but some of our panelists might still be with us at the venue for some time, so please feel free to engage in conversation if they are available. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much for all of that insight.